Hi there, I'm Cherie.
I'm Chris.
And we're Technomania.
And, well, we're not on a boat right now, but we live on a
Our
boat.
boat's over there, or there, whatever.
And we want to tell you about how we ended up picking out the boat that we did.
So when we first started researching the Great Loop and we learned about the requirements of air draft and water draft, that kind of narrows down the sorts of boats that you can go on.
Well, narrow's not the big concern. It's mostly the height and the draft. To do the Great Loop. So for those who might just be joining in, Great Loop is a circumnavigation of the eastern half of the North American continent, which is a lot of inland waterways and canals, and they've got some pretty strict limits and a lot of low bridges.
And the course that we want to be sure that we can go on puts us at about a 15-foot, 5-inch fixed bridges that we have to go under, and it's ideal to have our draft under 4 feet.
Right, so that puts a lot of constraints on boat hunting. And, okay, so that's what we started with. It's like we knew we wanted to do the Great Loop. We knew we wanted a boat that can do all the side trips. And let's go find a boat.
So when we started lurking on the Great Loop forums and Facebook groups and things like that, it became very feasible that you can get a boat under our initial budget was like 25 to 50 grand.
Right. So we'd actually seen people who say, hey, you can do the Great Loop here. I bought a boat for $8,000, did it for a year. Awesome. So we're like, let's just throw out a first ballpark, $50,000 as top end, and see what comes up. And well, there are boats that would be great for the Great Loop in that price range, but they're kind of rough. So we looked at some.
And if you have time on your side, so if you're planning this journey out many years in advance, you have time to find those diamonds in a rough and find one that's been impeccably cared for and babied and upgraded,
but
and
not
that price
priced
range.
Accordingly. Or you could find the rough and polish it into a diamond, which some people spend years taking an old boat and getting it ready for something like that. We wanted something that we could live on right away. We didn't want a project boat. So that suddenly that was the beginning of our journey. We rethought our price range and our budget.
So when we first approached our brokers, we started like, hey, it'd be nice if we can get in at 50 grand for our purchase price. Knowing that on top of that, there's going to be sales tax, haul out, survey.
All the initial upgrades and maintenance and
stuff like that. So we kind of upped our budget pretty quickly that our acquisition cost would be comfortable at about 100 grand. We had been saving up for this for years, and we had earmarked that much in cash that we could outlay for buying our boat. Now that's not including maintenance and upgrades and things like that we know are going to be ongoing.
And the one thing that did start to change is we started to think that this isn't going to be a 2 or 3 year boat that we get rid of. That is something that we're actually, even if we spend 3 years doing the Great Loop, we'll probably keep the boat longer term, so we're willing to invest more in it up front and in upgrades. So our thinking just kept expanding and expanding on that.
Yeah, initially we thought, a quick journey, a couple years. But we're ready to slow down our pace of travels and stay places a month or two at a time. And we started to look more as our boat as a floating condo that could get us in cool city centers, and we could live comfortably on and then move as we went. Yes. So we were willing to go with a larger boat, willing to put more into it to get a very livable, comfortable
bigger
space.
And more comfortable. And so that kind of pushed us up. It was like, okay, well, we're still thinking a 35 to 45 foot boat, aft deck with a sundeck and a aft bedroom, and that was the style we were fixed on. And our first boat crush was the Jefferson 42. It fit all of our requirements online. Could be had right about under $100,000, and
it would look beautiful online. We we looked at lots of video tours of them and just loved the flow of going from the aft cabin up to the flybridge down into the salon, and then having a front V-berth and a back aft cabin. So if we had guests aboard, we'd have separation of space and in the middle. And we thought that was a really cool idea. Apparently, brokers are used to almost every looper coming up to them as, I want an aft deck, sun deck style. They almost laugh at it.
Well, but I mean, it's a great style, and a lot of people are very successful for it. But and in particular, we were still attached to the style. We looked at the Jefferson 42 and we're like, okay, the boat is old, like about 25, 30 years old, and
more than that, they're mid-80s.
Yeah, mid-80s. Well, that's 30 years. Yeah, 30 years old. And so it was already pushing at the top of our budget, and, well, you can't finance a boat that old. So suddenly we started thinking, maybe we want to get something that we could put more money into, because we're bumping up against the top of our cash budget. We're
And we didn't want to take out investments.
Right.
The stock market's been doing great. We'd have to be paying capital gains
Right.
taxes. We'd rather have the principal in our investments. So we wanted to stick with what we had already put aside in cash. And we started looking into financing options. Now, when you start to finance, you're kind of limited to 15 to 20 years is the oldest that most financial institutions will finance, unless it's an extraordinarily high-end, older
Which
motor
we
yacht.
couldn't afford anyway. So, right.
So that kind of capped us to newer. We still didn't want to go excessive.
And we still didn't want brand new or anything close to that.
No.
But that did open our eyes to like, okay, we'd started off looking at 1980s boats, and now suddenly we're looking at late 90s and early 2000s, and it's a whole different kind of boats out there.
We were still at that time sticking to the aft cabin sundeck style. What was the next one we
Our
looked
next
at?
crush was the Carver 396. This great, well-designed 39-foot boat, meets basically almost all our requirements.
We got aboard one and just noticed that there's a difference between a weekender boat and a live-aboard quality boat, and that comes into the design of the galley. Is the sink large enough to actually fit a pan
Is
in?
the closet big enough for more than 2 shirts? And this boat was wonderful in every way except for the practicalities of it.
So then we went a little bit older and looked at the Carver 406 model, which was very similar, and that one had more live-aboard features on it. So that one actually remained on the top of our list to the very end.
Yeah, and then we're starting to look at more of these more kind of that brand, the Carver Cruisers stuff. So we looked at a Cruisers 455, and it was our first bigger boat that we looked at. It had a jacuzzi tub, and it was still aft cabin style, and it opened our eyes to bigger, but it was not...
Bigger without benefit. Now, when you go larger, there's a lot of ongoing costs that go along with it. It's more to maneuver, of course, but there's also marina
Pay
charge,
everything is by the foot.
cleaning, haul-outs, service. A lot of things are by the foot. So trying to find that compromise between space and length is, one of the challenges of finding the right boat.
And it just so happened while we were touring the 455, right next to it was a Seaway 420 AC, and our broker's like, I got the keys for this one. You want to check it out?
Sure, why not?
And we'd already kind of discounted Seaway and Bayliner as like kind of the low-end, mass-produced dime a dozen boats not worth considering. And seeing this one in person actually opened our eyes. It's like,
Oh, the higher-end yacht styles of these mass-produced ones are actually pushing more into the style of boats we'd already been looking at.
And you get a lot of boat for your money. And so we're like, maybe we should consider some of these mainstream ones.
So we kept the Seaway 420 AC on the list of ones to look at more. I don't think we ever really got serious about that one, though.
For a few days. The next one was actually an accident. It was the Silverton 453. Our broker took us out to see this boat, and it was our first Pilothouse boat. This thing was huge in every possible way.
Did not meet the great loop specs.
Including height. It was 20 feet high. You'd have to even get under the Chicago Bridge. You'd have to load it up with water barrels to get
But
under.
regardless, it was a Pilothouse, which was a different style boat than we were looking at. So it still had the aft cabin and forward V-Berth with the central salon. But this Pilothouse, which was a secondary helm that was inside, and we started thinking, wow, this gives us an extra living space inside.
Yeah, we had been thinking of Pilothouse as this completely wasted space. You only use it when you're underway and only in bad weather, and then it's this dead area. But this was like, it's usable space. We can actually do something with this. Okay. Led us to the Bayliner 4788. So this boat had been off our list just because it wasn't an aft cabin. We really, at first, didn't think we liked the idea of the guests and the master bedrooms being right next to each other, and we wanted the space and walk-around bed style of an aft cabin.
But the Bayliner had such beautiful-looking interior spaces for the salon, the galley, the Pilothouse, and all the outdoor areas. They're like, it kept tickling our brains.
Yeah, we kept going back and watching the video tours over and over again and saying, let's see one of these in person.
Started to develop a little bit of a crush.
A little bit of a crush.
So we let our brokers know that we would like to arrange to see one in person, and Curtis Stokes actually went and previewed a couple for us and found one that was worthwhile for us to spend our time to see.
And so, as soon as we walked aboard a Bayliner, we're like, this layout, this big living room, full-width living room. Okay, we suddenly didn't mind at all the bedrooms being near each other up front.
Because if we have guests aboard, there's plenty of spaces for people to congregate and be in different areas, which was important to us. Yeah. And everyone we talked to said, you'll know when you walk aboard that boat that that's the one you're looking for. But we still had concerns about the Bayliner being a mass produce. I mean, some people were calling it the barf liner.
Yeah.
And that's true of most of their line. But the more research we did is the 4788 in particular and its bigger brothers and sisters had a reputation of
Right.
being more at the high-end yacht, not high-end, but midline yacht level.
So much so that Bayliner spun off a new brand, Meridian, and relaunched the boats under the Meridian brand, charging several $100,000 more, just because they were trying to separate out from the Bayliner low-end brand. Same exact boat. So we actually even considered the Meridian 490, which was the same Bayliner 4788.
It's like,
It's just got fancier wood inside, but it's exactly the same, and you pay a lot more. Meh.
We did bracket. We also looked at the Navigator line, which is a very similar layout, and it just didn't call us
It had a
the same way.
claustrophobic feeling up in the bedrooms.
And we also looked at some of the smaller Bayliner equivalents, and they didn't look either.
Those are older, like the Bayliner 4588 is older. We could have gotten it for a cash price, but then there was so much rough about them, and they had a lot of exterior wood instead of fiberglass. So it's like this 4788 we really quickly realized was our sweet spot, and then it was, where do we find our 4788?
So because Why Not had the folding arch, it came up on our searches very initially, which got the bridge height down to 12 feet.
So it could do any bridge on the entire Great Loop.
All right. So Why Not was originally listed at $199, and our broker kind of told us to expect to pay around $200 for a good quality Bayliner in great shape. And so we kept Why Not on our list. By the time we got to see her at the end of the year, the owner had already dropped the price down to $179.
And it's still up there for us, but like, okay, we can do this for an older boat. Yeah, okay, let's consider this.
And she was in rougher condition than the pictures led us to believe. And
But
we left
under the hood, or under the
Deck.
the deck was in much better condition than other Bayliners, so let's trading that off.
So we saw some other ones in Florida, and they were also rougher than we ideally would like, but we knew that there were good ones out there. And we made a decision in early January that we were very sure the Bayliner 4780 is what we wanted, and it was worthwhile waiting for the right one to become available.
So we had to wait for New York to thaw, basically.
So we actually extended our search out into summer or fall if we needed to. And then serendipitously, when we were in Fort Myers for Looperpalooza, it's a great loop thing, in mid-January, the owner actually dropped the price another $10,000 because Wanda had been on the market for about a year at this point, and because of all of her modifications that had been done, she was kind of not appealing to those looking for a stock Bayliner.
The classic Bayliner did not have the top boat deck, which now we're very happy we don't have.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So we went, the owner had dropped it to $169 at that point. We went ahead, and our broker was in town for Looperpalooza anyway, so we arranged to go spend another afternoon aboard Why Not. And still rougher than, the carpet did replace, and some of the wood is, faded and stuff like that. But it's all stuff that can be dealt with. But more importantly is the mechanicals really just showed how well they'd been cared for over the years, and that's the really important part.
Right. So, on that second viewing, it just clicked. We're like, we want this boat.
Well, no, well, not necessarily. We didn't say we want it. We said we are good with this one.
Okay.
Having the bow thruster and the folding arch were major selling points of it.
It was really clicking, though. By the end of that second viewing, we were like, yeah, let's make it.
We said, why not?
Why not? Let's
so
go for
what we
this one.
decided is, since the seller had just dropped the price, we didn't want to do a lowball offer. So we offered, it's kind of typical standard that you start offering at 80% or below, or even lowball from there. We decided to offer at 85% of asking price, and we settled at $152.
Which we thought was a fabulous price for a Bayliner 4788 in this condition. Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of extras that we're going to have to, it didn't come with a dinghy for one, so there's going to be that challenge. The electronics are all old, they're going to have to be upgraded. So there is a lot of stuff that we knew we were going to have to budget on top of it. Now, the reason we decided to finance, now we could have extended our budget and gone and cashed out and paid cash for it if we really wanted to, but we decided to try financing. Especially, it was a challenge. As a full-time nomad already using a mail forwarding address, it's difficult to get financing. It's all related to the Dodd-Frank regulations. You can go research that.
Banks don't like nomads.
So there's very few banks that will work with someone who doesn't own physical property, or it's not going to be a fixed place property.
And then we have the other complication of we are self-employed, but we did track down a bank that would work with us.
Right. So Coastal Financial up in Michigan was able to find a financial institution that would finance us. So that actually went a lot smoother than we thought it would be. And the way that we justified financing is, so it requires 20% down payment. So we put the 20% down, and then that is only a fraction of our original $100,000 budget. And then we immediately put 5 years of payments into a savings account that the payments are going to come out of. So for us, it's not coming out of our monthly income. It's coming out of our initial acquisition cost. And then all of the closing costs came out. Then it came out to just around that 100,000 mark we were aiming for. So for us, we got a better boat for about the same acquisition cost. Now, of course, after 5 years, we're still going to have payments to make or figuring out what we want to do. But that was a trade-off. Or selling it. But that was a trade-off we were willing to make.
And that's how we went from looking for a $25,000 to $50,000 mid-'80s trawler to a Bayliner 4788. It was quite a journey. We condensed our boat hunt into just 6 months, really, less than even, where a lot of people spend years hunting, but it really worked out for us.
Well, so far. We're
so
2 months in.
Two months in, and
far,
it's been a wonderful home.
We're really happy so far, and we're putting a lot of, we also have a maintenance budget and an upgrade budget, and that's being used.
Indeed, absolutely. So there's the story, and keep following along.
Can you see him?
Yeah, you can see the windows tinted and like. Why do they pick today to do road construction?
Oh gosh.